Well, hello once again. This is the weekly edition of the Midnight Skeptic coming at you yet again. It is X minus 32 days until, oh boy, I hate to say this, but X minus 32 days until the inauguration of the orange sociopathic bloat bag as the leader of this nation. And we all know who the real leader of this nation is. It's Elon Musk. And the only reason he can't be president is because he's an immigrant from South Africa. Okay? So, this is the Midnight Skeptic. This will be going out to the world on this coming Sunday, the 22nd of December, at the usual time, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, on kpca.fm worldwide, and locally at 103.3 FM. That covers most of Sonoma County, although not all of it. I don't think the signal gets over the mountains into actual town of Sonoma, but we try our best. In fact, when I give the call letters, KPCA, I have to say -LP, which stands for low power. I haven't been doing that much lately, but I should, okay? I don't know exactly how many watts KPCA, Petaluma Community Access, has, but it's not enough to not have to say LP. And then also, after I get done doing this show, I will download it to YouTube so that all my millions of watchers and listeners can enjoy the Midnight Skeptic and be enlightened and be brought up to date on the comings and goings of our new administration, which is coming up after January 20th. That is going to be a sad day, in my opinion. Sad day, in my opinion. And the administration of the orange sociopathic bloat bag will descend upon our country like a vast, gray, drizzly, bloated bag of ignorance and worshipfulness of that orange sociopathic bloat bag. Okay, I'm not making a lot of sense here, I think, but I'm doing my best. Now, my play-in music, I guess I should do that right now. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, I've said before on other shows that I've been doing this for 7 years, roughly. The first couple of years was down at the radio studios of Petaluma Community Access, their offices downtown. They used to have their studios and offices in a smaller building on the campus of Casa Grande High School here in Petaluma. Well, they moved And then they decided to start up this radio station. And it they started out with TV studios, and they had portable TV cameras because it is a state law that the meetings of small communities, planning commission, city council, recreation committee, environmental committees, all of those little committees have to be televised locally. And, well, Petaluma Community Access was the only one that had the equipment to do that. So, and we didn't do it for free. We got paid out of the budgets of these smaller towns, Cotati and Sebastopol, and having a brain freeze on other communities. I guess Rohnert Park. But we did it, and that's how they started out with their television studios and portable television things, which the community could rent out for private parties and whatnot. And they would show us how to use this equipment, this television equipment. Well, they made the big move to new offices downtown. Rob Tomaszewski worked for them and then became the radio station manager when they got it going. I went down there with my son, Dennis, and in the first organizing meeting, there was about, 30 people maybe, 5 of his buddies, and they were all in their early 20s at this time. In fact, my son, I think I can say this now without any repercussions, but he ran a pirate radio station out of our garage. And he had a couple of his friends were DJs spinning vinyl records, and they had a couple of live performances in our garage, and a couple of stand-up comics that had a night of comedy in our garage. And I got to see all of this. Well, when they decided to start the radio station, the legitimate radio station for KPCA, Dennis came home and said, "Hey, Dad, they're organizing a radio station, and come on down." Okay, so I went with him, and almost all of the mid-20s age guys that were there were going to be disc jockeys, spinning their tastes in music on vinyl, grunge and metal and other music that was the taste at that time. And Rob Tomaszewski, the station manager, was going around getting names and contact info from all these people. And then he got around to me, and I had met him a couple of times before this. And he said, "Dave, what do you want to do?" And I didn't, and still don't, see myself as a disc jockey. But I said, well, I could probably do a talk show. And he said, "Oh, great. We don't have very many of those," which they didn't at the time. And he said, "Well, what do you want to call it?" Well, I was on the spot, and I had to think of something right quick. So into my addled mind popped Midnight Skeptic. And at that time, and I still am sort of, I was a member of the skeptics community, the North Bay Skeptics. And most of what their meetings consisted of was religion bashing. And you get tired of that after a while. And they also talked about debunking things like UFOs, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, mind readers, psychics, all of those kind of things, which I like to debunk too, but from the start of the program, and I talked about those kind of things, my show, as you all should know by now, has gotten more and more political, especially since the advent of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. Well, that's a quick history of the Midnight Skeptic, and here we are. This is Thursday, December 19th, and right now it's about 10 minutes to 2. Okay, so, and I've gotten in the habit of doing shout-outs to start the show with, and this is a list of people that have told me at one time or another that they listen in to this, and I've gotten to know some of the listeners, and I always start off the shout-outs with Project Censored, and Mickey Huff, who used to live here up in a town up near Sacramento, I forget which one, and he was a history professor and communications professor over at Diablo Valley College, which is across the bay from Petaluma, and he's since gone on to bigger and better things back east. He's a distinguished director of the Alternative Media Studies program at Ithaca College, and that's the same town in upstate New York where Cornell is. I don't think they have any connection with each other, but he is one of the guiding lights of Project Censored, as is Andy Lee Roth, who is a history professor over at UC Santa Cruz, and Nolan Higdon, who's a history professor down at Cal State East Bay, and I'm not sure whether he's still connected with Project Censored or not. And there's a new person, a girl back at Ithaca that is associated with Project Censored now, and I don't have my notes with me to pronounce her name. It was her last name is Voitel, Voitl. I'm not sure what nationality that name is. Kaileigh, Kaileigh. I think that's an Irish name. Anyway, she's associated with Project Censored now, and they just came out with the state of the Free Press 2025. How long the press will be free now that the orange sociopathic bloat bag is about to take control of things. I don't know how free our press is going to be, so we had better enjoy it while we've got it. Okay, John Crowley at Aquas Cafe. They're at 2nd and H here in Petaluma. They're a very good small restaurant, and they have light fare, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, early dinner, and they host nonprofit organizational meetings, ethnic dinners occasionally, poetry readings, music. Novelists bring their works there to introduce them to the public, and twice a year, Drinks with Shrinks they host. And I went to the last one and had a couple of nice conversations with some psychotherapists that come out of the woodwork. I have a master's in clinical psychology from John F. Kennedy University, which closed down, I think, about 12 or 13 years ago. And I went there in 1978 and 79. And I've got to admit, they were pretty weird in their psychotherapeutic studies. And in fact, they had a separate department of paranormal studies. I won't go into that right now. On an upcoming show, I'll even show you on YouTube their course offering booklet. Anyway, so that's John Crowley at Aquas Cafe. Their food is good. They have beer on tap and wine, no hard liquor. Tom Gaffey at the Phoenix Theater, alternative teens, grunge and metal music on the weekends. Ralph Scott, who is a audio book producer called Squeaky Cheese Productions, LLC. Okay, Rabbi Ted Feldman, who's retired now, but was the rabbi of B'nai Israel here in Petaluma. And my wife was Jewish. She's passed away. She and I went down there for his night classes occasionally, and the Jewish holiday dinners that they used to have there. And I learned actually quite a bit about Judaism, the religion, and history of Israel, and oh boy, brain freeze, and the aspirations of the Jewish settlers over in Israel, and the that movement. Oh man, these brain freezes are maddening. Chaim Weizmann started this movement, and which helped in the process of creating the Israeli state. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the settler movement in today's show. Anyway, and David Rubin, who he and I roomed together in San Francisco in 1978-79, and he is the world's greatest pulmonary physician. And most of what he was doing when he and I roomed together was research up at UC San Francisco. About 2/3 of his hours up there were research hours, and then the other third was clinical hours, when he actually saw patients who had something wrong with their lungs. Okay? He retired from there, went to work for GlaxoSmithKline, the big pharma company, and he arranged clinical studies of their new drugs to see if they, well, one, worked, and two, if the side effects were worse than what the drugs were supposed to combat. Okay? All drugs have some side effects. Now, most drugs, thankfully, the side effects are, no big deal. Some side effects, you don't want to have them, so the drugs are pulled off the market, or, not approved by the CDC or the FDA or whoever approves them. Okay. All right. And then the rest of the shout-out people are people who have indicated that occasionally they do listen in to this show And in fact, I've gotten some feedback comments via YouTube comments about things I'm doing right, things I'm doing wrong, how I could improve the show. Hard to believe, but this show could be improved. Okay, Dave and Rosie Takach up in Sacramento, Kevin and Lori in Katati, Rich and Kathy Berger over in Sebastopol. Back here in Petaluma, Tim Conrad, who was in my high school class, and up in Sonora, California. And he's a great photographer. Art Kutznet, I'm not sure what he does, but he and I met at B'nai Israel. And down in Tiburon, Dennis and Megan, San Francisco, Yvonne and Rick, and Pacifica, Stan and Kathy. Oh, Stan is retired now, but he was the city attorney of Daly City and one of the smartest guys that I've ever met. I met him in my first after college job, paycheck and benefits at Payless Drugs in San Francisco. And he was going through law school at that time. And that shows you how long ago it was. Okay. Down south, Aunt Jackie and her daughter Samantha, Samantha's little boy David, and Samantha's sister Melanie, who is now living in Austin, Texas, the little bit of blue in the midst of a Magaland red state. Okay, Arkansas. I'm doing all of this without notes now. Shannon Reed. Okay. And in Florida, Nelson and Alice Lydell. He was or is a retired United States Public Health Department officer. And his specialty was breathing apparatuses and face masks. His knowledge came in handy during the COVID-19 outbreak. And his job and his team's job was to develop better masks and breathing apparatuses. Okay, and then across on the Atlantic side of Florida, Amelia Beamer. She's a excellent editor. She is a novelist. She has a few novels under her belt. And she is a guiding light for budding writers, which I am. I'll tell you guys about this at some future show. Okay, Dave Rubin, Dr. Dave Rubin, I mentioned him. He lives in the Raleigh-Durham area. And up to Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger, my wife's best friend, my late wife's best friend, and then way back over here on the West Coast up to Sonora, Robert Finnegan, Bob and Sandy Fisher, and their two offspring, Brad and Martha. Brad is the head of the Tuolumne County Historical Society. If you guys are ever up there on a vacation or a weekend tour or whatever, stop in. And he has everything well organized there, and it's very interesting. Okay, Darrell Larson in our high school class, he was our bronc rider back in high school. He did the local rodeo circuit, and he has the broken bones to show for it. Judy May, Lynn Quayle, Kathy Francis, and then all the way up Highway 108 to Twain Hart, John Gleason, and his two daughters. I don't know where they're living now, but Tiffany is the African studies professor somewhere, and she speaks. Okay, I can never remember the name of this language, but they speak it in the nation of Benin and other African countries around the Big Horn of Africa. I want to say Bantu, but I don't think that's right. Anyway, the other one is Jennifer, works in some executive capacity for Wells Fargo. And then all the way down in Mexico City is Rosamalia Lopez Negrete, who is not a big fan of Claudia Sheinbaum, the new president of Mexico. I'm all for her for being leftist. She's not a communist. But as long as she stands up to the orange sociopathic bloat bag, I will be always in favor of her. Whew. Okay. Okay, let's get to the meat of this show. I've got a lot of things to talk about. I need a sip. This is coffee with a scoop of French vanilla ice cream in it. Okay. Real good news. David Hogg, H-O-G-G, is running for the Democratic National Committee vice chair. He's only 24. And he is a survivor of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School mass shooting. Like I say, he's 24 now. He's a Harvard graduate, and he is a gun control activist, and he is a March for Our Lives organizer. So Republicans, of course, hate him. Okay, and I wish him well. I caught an interview with him on some news show, and he said that one of his priorities would be to recruit more youth and Generation Z into the Democratic Party. Yay, we need a youth movement in the Democratic Party. We really do. Okay, if we hope to get rid of the orange sociopathic bloat bag after 4 years are up. Okay? The orange sociopathic bloat bag is a rapist. He did it to E. Jean Carroll back in New York in a department store. I'm having a brain freeze on the details of it, but ABC, the television network, rolled over and caved in to a lawsuit instituted by the orange sociopathic bloat bag because George Stephanopoulos misspoke on a technicality. He said that the orange sociopathic bloat bag was a convicted rapist. Well, technically, the orange sociopathic bloat bag was convicted of sexual battery against E. Jean Carroll. So it's a technicality, but ABC didn't choose to go to trial and defend themselves. So the orange sociopathic bloat bag won a $15 million settlement, plus his lawyer's expenses. Heaven knows he won't pay his lawyers. And I don't know. I think ABC had to apologize to him. Harsh truth. House Speaker Mike Johnson just announced that Republican men who have been neutered by the orange sociopathic bloat bag can continue to use the men's bathroom at the Capitol building. They are the biggest collection of spineless, quote-unquote, men on earth. Okay. Horrible news. RFK Jr., in addition to his worm in his brain condition, was addicted to heroin for 14 years. He drove his wife to commit suicide. There are allegations of sexual assault against him, I think by his maid or his nanny or housekeeper or something. I'm not really sure who it was. And apparently has a fetish about dead animals. You know, the story about the dead bears and the whale's head. This guy is weird. The orange sociopathic bloat bag is nominating him to head this country's health departments, plural. CDC, National Health Institute, NIH. We are doomed if this weirdo gets approved by the Senate, and the Republicans will be, after January, in control of the Senate by, I think, 1 or 2 senators. Okay. Bad news. Okay. An Israeli settler group, Uri Tzafon, I'll spell it if anybody wants to Google this, URI, second word, capital TSAFON, is planning on moving settlements into southern Lebanon and areas in Syria that were supposed to be a buffer zone set up by the UN to keep Hezbollah and Israeli settlers and the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, separate. Okay, well, this group, this settler group, and they're right-wingers, make no mistake about that, see this as new lands to settle. Okay. Okay, this is a quote from one of their leaders. Quote, "We have to conquer quickly as possible. We have to conquer and destroy as much as possible and as quickly as possible," one leader of the group said. The Nachala movement, okay, I'll spell that for you, capital NACHALA movement, led by Daniela Weiss, WEISS, who has been spearheading efforts in recent months to resettle Gaza, wrote, "Whoever still thinks it's possible to leave our fate in the hands of a foreign actor forsakes Israel's security. Jewish settlement is the only thing that will bring about regional stability. In Gaza, in Lebanon, in the entire Golan Heights, including the Syrian plateau, and the entire Mount Hermon, Abraham's borders are ours. Okay. Religion. See what religion brings upon otherwise rational humans. Okay. And I am not anti-Israel. I'm not anti-Jewish, but certain factions of them are every bit as cruel and warlike as any, I want to use the right word here, jihadist. Okay? Hundreds of right-wing Israelis gathered near Gaza to celebrate the Jewish festival of Sukkot. That's capital Sukkot. I'm not sure about what that holiday celebrates, but Daniela Weiss at this convening said, "We came with one clear purpose, to settle the entire Gaza Strip." This is a quote from Daniela Weiss, and it was said on October 21st, 2024, about 2 months ago. I need a sip of coffee after all that ranting. Okay, hopeful news. Judge Merchan in New York should not dismiss the 34 felony counts against the orange sociopathic bloat bag. A lot of people say that, it was just paying off Stormy Daniels. No big deal. No. What he was convicted of was cooking the books. What's the technical term for that? Oh boy, I'm having a brain freeze on the technical term for that, but it was cooking the corporate books. Is what he actually did was to hide his payments to Stormy Daniels. So Judge Merchan should not dismiss these. And the federal government has nothing to do with this. It was the state of New York. And so he can't be pardoned by himself or anybody. Okay. Good news. Thanks to the island nation of Vanuatu, the entire industrial world effectively went on trial this month in The Hague at the International Court of Justice. The case before the 15-member ICJ is about climate change. Sea rise caused by the rising temperatures in the atmosphere, which is caused mainly by the increasing carbon dioxide levels in the air, is endangering not only Vanuatu, but other sea level nations as well, such as the Maldives and Fiji and many other island nations. The industrial nations of this world should do more to help mitigate the problems that are facing these island nations. Julian Aguon, capital Aguon, who is an indigenous Guamanian attorney, argued before the ICJ on behalf of the Pacific Island nations, specifically Vanuatu. Time check. Okay. Bad news. RFK Jr., the crazy freak in the Kennedy family, one of his aides filed to revoke polio shots from being approved by the federal government. I think it was maybe the CDC or the NIH. Okay, the lawyer, Aaron Siri, Siri, like the online assistant, has also filed a petition seeking to pause the distribution of 13 other vaccines and subjected prominent vaccine scientists to grueling videotaped depositions. He also represents the Informed Consent Action Network, a nonprofit whose founder is a close ally of RFK Jr. And one of the things I meant to do was to Google Informed Consent Action Network, ICAN, and find out exactly who they are, when they were formed, and I'm sure that they are a bunch of right-wing goons who are just anti-vaxxers. I'll find out, and I will tell you who they are on next week's show. Good news. An infamous scientific paper published in the International Journal of Antimicrobial Agents by, this is a French guy, Philippe Gautret, Gautret, and he works at the Hospital Institute of Marseille, France. This paper has been retracted. This doesn't happen all that often. Many scientists investigated the paper's conclusion that hydroxychloroquine was a valid treatment for COVID-19. This is what this doctor, I guess he's a doctor, Gautret, concluded. Okay, and they found many flaws in the procedures by Gautret and a lot of ethical concerns. That's why these papers are peer-reviewed. And it's bad that it took so long for this paper's peer review to take place. There were only, get this, 36 patient samples and was used alongside azithromycin. I have no idea why the orange sociopathic bloat bag in his first term seized on hydrochloroquine in the early 2020s as a the orange sociopathic bloat bag and his toadies seized upon hydrochloroquine as a COVID cure. The paper was submitted on March 16th, 2020, and published 4 days later. Ivermectin, which is another orange sociopathic bloat bag wishful thinking cure for COVID, is also bogus. Okay. Good news. Seabound, which is a startup company, has developed a method for removing carbon dioxide from ships' exhausts. Lime rocks in a container in which the exhaust is routed, then to carbon capture technology, which I am convinced is kind of bogus. About 3% of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is from the upwards of 100,000 global ships out on the oceans at any one time. I didn't realize that it was that many ships, but this article mentioned 100,000 ships, all of them belching exhaust out their smokestacks, and most of which is carbon dioxide. Good news. The anti-Trump march, the day after his inauguration in June 20th, it'll be the 21st. Okay, the original march was right after he was inaugurated in 2017. Do you remember the pink pussy hats that they all wore? Well, they're going to do it again, except they have rebranded themselves. Now they call themselves the People's March, because they want to include more people, not just women, but other minorities, the LGBTQ community, and male sympathizers. And I hope that they get a good turnout for this People's March on January 21st, right after the bloat bag is inaugurated. This is good news to end the show on. Senator Elizabeth Warren will... Okay, now, this actually was done yesterday. Okay, so I got to start over again. Senator Elizabeth Warren introduced, past tense, yesterday into the Senate the Accountable Capitalism Act bill on Wednesday. And it was the 16th, yesterday. I'm sorry, the 18th. The act will shift corporate responsibility from shareholders' profits to stakeholders. Now, stakeholders are workers at the corporation, the community that it serves. Those are the stakeholders, and they should be taken into consideration by corporations. Well, as much as I'm for that, good luck with that. It has to be passed before the Republican takeover of the Senate. Now, again, let me remind you of this book that I got by Bernie Sanders, It's Okay to Be Angry About Capitalism. This bill that Elizabeth Warren submitted into the Senate yesterday is a bill that will address some of the concerns that Bernie Sanders has about corporations in his book. So, all right, let me play my out music. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, and we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. When I recorded this out music bit, I forgot to include think scientifically as well. But think rationally and logically, that eliminates all Republicans, unfortunately. And the most important thing that I said in that whole bit is to pet your cat, and I stand by that. Now, the orange sociopathic bloat bag, although I shouldn't worry until after January 20th, he has it out for me, and I am on his list of journalists, broadcasters, and people who he doesn't like. And I'm sure that he's not a regular listener, but if Kash Patel gets through the Senate hearings on the FBI head, which he's been nominated for by the orange sociopathic bloat bag, they will be sending some agents with their little handful of zip ties to take me into custody and put me on trial in a sham kangaroo court and maybe imprison me. Okay. And that's only slightly exaggerated, but I would like him to do it, and it'll give me a few more listeners, hopefully. So, until next week, I will be coming at you again. And let's see, what'll that be? This is going out on the 22nd, this coming Sunday at 9 p.m. The next one will be coming out at you all on the 29th. That's 3 days before the new year. And we won't have that much longer to enjoy ourselves, enjoy our freedoms and happiness until the vast gray bloat bag of unhappiness and sorrow descends upon this country. Okay, until next week, goodbye, y'all. I'll do this again. Bye-bye.